interrupt this program to bring you...
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Real Guys Live, the show where we take a look at all your favorite movies, TV shows, give you all the news that you ought to know. It's been quite a long time. My name is Kevin. Joining me today, the greatest minds of the Real Movie Guy universe, we have Julie. Say hi, Julie.
Hi.
And we got Adam over there.
Hello.
And last but not least, the beard master himself, John. And he frozen. It wouldn't be The Real Guys Live being back if he wasn't frozen. Well, John finds his way back to us. Guys, I'm great to see you all again. It's been quite a long time. John has left the chat. Okay. Don't worry. Few hiccups. We'll be fine.
That's fine.
We'll be fine, I promise. Guys, though, again, like I said, it's been quite a while. The reason for the absence, we've had quite a hiatus. If you look at our channel, we haven't had a video in quite a while. Just a lot of real-life stuff's been going on. Good stuff. I don't want anyone to think like, oh my god, it's been the end of the world. Things have kind of gotten in the way. John's back. Hold on. Hey, he's back. In the middle of a recording. Again, wouldn't be... At least it wasn't me this time. As you guys know, it's usually me who makes the errors, so it's nice when it's like somebody else that does it.
This fucking thing.
There you go. John, say hi to the people at home as you click your camera.
Hello.
All right, John's back. Now we're back in action. Like I was saying, though, it's been a while. Me and Julie actually just recently got a house, so our setting will slightly change. You'll start to see some new sets popping up here and there. As it's a work in progress, but we finally moved after a while. I also had to have a surgery on my right hand where I was having some issues. So that kind of put me out of action, put me in a bit of a funk, but, bounced back. I think I'm better for it, see what happens with that. But again, I'm just happy to be back, guys. Honestly, I'm just happy to be back. We haven't really talked just in general like this in a really long time. So what I'm most curious about, and I think everyone at home is, what have you been watching? Adam, let's start with you. What have you been watching, my friend?
Okay, so probably the most notably was I finally caught up on The Boys.
Oh my god! Wow, all right. What do you think of The Boys? Let's start with that because I got some stuff I want to say.
I think it's great. I think it's very entertaining.
Okay.
I enjoy the writing. I enjoy all the characters. There's not a single character I dislike.
Okay.
I'm very excited for. I saw season 4 has started to film, so I'm very excited for that.
See, that's good. Now, I want to make this clear, and Julie knows. Me and her, she's been on me about it because Julie's been wanting to watch The Boys for like ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I do too, all right? It's not just her. I want to watch it. I just, for some reason, can't get into it. And I don't know what it is. And there's nothing that... The show's not bad. I don't want to say that. I don't want to sound like that guy, like, oh, he doesn't like the show. I don't know what it is. Like, we've been watching it. We've started and stopped it how many times now at this point, do you think?
We're on our third. We watched it once. We got like episode 5 of the first season, whatever the plane episode was.
Mm-hmm.
And then we wanted to watch it with my dad. So we were watching it and we got to that same episode again. And then we dropped off. And now we're in it again. But we are almost at the very end of the first season. I keep telling him we gotta just keep going. I like it. I don't know. But I'm also in like the TikTok realm, and there's so many clips, so many sounds from the show that I'm like, I want to get to this. And I just know that it's funny. I know that it's good. So like, I feel like if we just get through the first season, we'll be golden.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know what it is. Like, I just lack the momentum to keep going. And again, it's not bad. I think it's actually really great. I think all the characters, like you said, even just from the first season alone, I really like their chemistry. I think everyone really works well together. It's just, there's something like, for a back of a better, like, quote, something in the way. Like, I just can't, like, I can't get, like, invested in it. I don't know what it is. Do you think it's just me, right? Obviously. I'm the one with the problem. You could say it.
Well,
right.
see, that's how I am with a bunch of other shows. Like, there's something, I don't know, usually when stuff gets too popular, that's when I kind of fall off. I don't know. That's just how I am. I don't know. But this... I was the same exact way with The Boys, and then I was like, you know what? Let me just watch an episode. And then all of a sudden, I was like, let me just watch a second episode.
And it's funny, like, I feel like the show, just based on what I've seen so far, again, this is only first season with like one episode left to end it. I feel like it relies a lot on that shock value in the
Right.
show, and I think I'm desensitized. I don't know. I hate to say that, where I'm like,
I get that.
someone's like head got blown off. Someone just like exploded all over into chunks. Like, all right, like not a big deal to me. I don't know. Maybe the shock value doesn't hit me as hard as it would someone who's never seen that before. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I mean, it does get to a point where I was thinking, like, what more could they possibly do to kind of wow me?
Right.
Kind of like, whoa. I mean, there have been scenes that come up, especially in like season 3, that I'm like, whoa, that was,
See, and that's what I
plot
want to get
twist.
to, and I think
Yeah.
there is something there. I have to push. Again, it's totally a me thing. Also, part of it too, I think I have like such superhero burnout from
Yeah.
lately. I think that's really what it is too. Where, it's funny when we're younger, we always picture like, oh, we want these superhero movies, these TV shows. Oh, wouldn't it be wonderful? We get like 1,000,000 of them. After you get it, you're kind of like, eh. It's like when you have too much of like a certain flavor of ice cream, you start to like
Right.
kind of like get over it a little bit. Maybe not Julie. She loves all her ice cream. That Netflix and chilled.
It's a classic. Can't go wrong with it.
But yeah, it's like one of those things. I guess I feel like I just get burnt out after a while. But
No, yeah, I get it. It's
But-
I guess that what makes this show special is that it breaks that mold.
I think that's what it is. And I think
Yeah.
I just gotta push it. Let me finish. Let me watch more, and then I'm gonna.
Season
report
3 is
back.
my favorite, so
Okay.
at least get to there.
All right. Well, I'll
You
give
get
it to
Soldier
that.
Boy.
Yeah, I know. I
it.
heard Jensen Ackles. I love him.
His little song that he does is just always on like a loop.
Yeah. That's
Well,
a great song.
Something to look forward to.
Classic.
What about anything else you've been watching, Adam? I know it's been quite a while. Anything else you caught up on? Or?
In addition to that, I've been watching Smallville.
Oh,
Again.
All right, this I can relate to. Okay, so how does it feel on the rewatch after all these years?
And it's just so good. It's just so entertaining. Obviously, it feels like the early 2000s,
Oh yeah.
but it's just really an entertaining watch, and it's nice to go back and rewatch everything.
Is it crazy like Allison Mack's like a convicted like drug smuggler or whatever?
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
Trafficker. I think it's sex trafficking.
Sex trafficking,
that's what
whatever
it
it
is.
is. I don't know. I just know it's really bad, and I don't want to get demonetized for talking too much about it. No, I'm just kidding. I just kidding. No, it's one of those things. Like, yeah, I know it's really bad, but it's crazy to think like seeing her as just Chloe in that show to being she ended up being. Hey, it goes to show. But Smallville ahead of its time, I think, in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
It really set that mark for
Absolutely.
like what CW ended up being in the future with Arrow and the Flash, and in some ways better. I don't know. I'm sure it has its weaknesses. Just like anything else.
Well, what I'm interested to see is because I fell off right around when the writers' strike happened back then.
Okay, makes sense.
So I want to see how those episodes hold up today. I'm only in like I think season 4 already.
Okay.
But I'm interested to see how that translates to today.
Right. No, it's interesting. I always wondered, like, it's funny too. Like, we were so sensitive about like him wearing the Superman costume. Like,
Right.
WB was so like worried, like, oh no, we can't have more than one Superman. I wonder if that would have helped the show, like towards the end there, because I know at the end, like the big finale is he eventually dons it in like a pseudo way at some
Yes.
point, but.
Yep.
It's not like that. We never got that true visual. I think until recently they did. I believe. I think in the Arrowverse there was like a crossover, like multiverse event, and we actually got to see Tom Welling as Clark Kent in one of like the multiverse scenes. So they kind of brought it back like briefly just to show. But I always wonder. It's like the story that never was. I always wonder what would have happened with that if we actually got a true Superman.
From what I've heard is that Tom Welling has hinted that they're going to do a kind of like a follow-up series but it's going to be animated, but he's going to be providing the voices, and
That's
so
perfect.
what's his name, the guy that played Lex.
Oh, I can't remember his name. He was in that movie. Isn't that the movie you like, Julie, with him in it?
Was it Michael Rosenbaum?
Michael Rosenbaum. There was a
That's
movie
it.
with him. I can't remember. I don't know. But yeah, Michael. He was is he one of the best Lex Luthors? Like,
Yes.
for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, severely underrated. Like,
Absolutely.
I mean, I know Jesse Eisenberg might be like one of the best ones, but I think the video first. No, I'm just kidding. No, yeah, no, that's good. Smallville's a great like classic to go back on, especially if you're looking for like a really long show. How many seasons is Smallville around? Is it
I
6?
think it's like I think it's more than that. I think it's like 10.
Is it 10? I own like half of it on DVD, half of it on Blu-ray, because that was like during that
man.
weird transition period.
Right.
That needs an upgrade soon, I have to say. Julie's like, no more. You'll eventually see the set, guys, and when you see the set, you'll know why that doesn't need an upgrade. Anyway, so that being that, okay. So anything else? Anything other shows really, or that's kind of
no. That's usually
that's
our
a lot of time sink right there. I mean, Smallville alone is like
yeah.
that's your life.
I mean, usually what ends up happening is I'll go through and all of a sudden I'll only watch like 3 episodes and it's been like 2 days. I'm like, oh my god, how is this possible? Yeah.
All right,
So,
very cool. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying some nostalgia there with the Smallville.
Absolutely.
And the nostalgia with the boys. That's kind of cool. All right, John, what's up, man?
What's up?
I've been waiting. What have you been watching? What's going on with you over there?
I've been watching the Captain on ESPN.
Okay.
It's about Derek Jeter's like career in baseball, and then I've pretty much been watching rewatching Moon Knight again.
Rewatching Moon Knight. Interesting. We wanted to rewatch Moon Knight. What do you? Why?
I felt like it was I feel like I thought it was better actually the second time I watched it. I was able to catch onto more things.
Okay. Yeah.
Different Easter eggs and shit.
So what about like She-Hulk? Did you go into like any of that yet? Any of the new stuff? I feel like has anyone really gone into like the new Marvel stuff? Adam has. Oh, okay.
I'm all caught up.
All caught up. All right. And what are your thoughts? We have to have a conversation about that. I haven't actually watched anything after Moon Knight.
Oh my god.
All right. So what are your thoughts? Real quick rundown. So Miss Marvel.
It was good. It was enjoyable.
Okay, Miss Marvel. Quick. Okay, enjoyable.
I don't think it was as good as everybody else is saying, but it was good. I enjoyed it a lot.
What else was there? Just She-Hulk, right? That's it.
I mean, if you're not counting any of the movies, then
what other movies were there?
We've seen the movies.
Yeah, we've seen the movies.
Just Thor came
Yeah.
out.
Oh yeah, Thor I liked.
Yeah. No, that Thor was great. And She-Hulk is fantastic so far. I love it.
She-Hulk's fantastic.
Even twerking She-Hulk?
Even twerking She-Hulk?
Someone's taking screenshots and stuff.
It's like your screensaver now on your phone.
Yeah.
It's your background on your phone. You have like a twerking
Absolutely.
She-Hulk. Oh my god.
Absolutely. No, I really enjoy it though. I think it's great.
Okay. All right. Interesting. So we'll have to talk about it. I gotta watch it. I just kind of fallen off a little bit. Thor I did watch. Thor I really liked. It seems like it got kind of mixed reviews, which
Yes.
I'm kind of surprised about. John, did you see Thor at all?
No.
No, we'll probably review that soon. It is coming to Disney Plus, so maybe we'll do like a big group discussion on Thor and stuff like that when the time comes. There's a lot to talk about, I think, with that movie. I think it did a lot of good things for the Marvel universe, just for a universe I feel is kind of stale. Not trying to be Debbie Downer, which I guess I am sometimes. Sorry, guys. But anyway, all right, Julie, back to you real quick. What have you been watching? What have we been watching?
We've been watching a lot of like really good things lately, so I don't know what to pick, but I guess I'm gonna go with House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragon has been more enjoyable than
Excellent.
I thought. Adam, have you watched House of the Dragon at all yet? No?
Nope, not yet.
I was such a big Game of Thrones person, and with how it ended, it was very like salt in the wounds, and I was very, very hesitant with House of the Dragon. Like even like at first I was excited, but I was very nervous. But I'm very impressed. I love the storytelling that's happening. Everything is great so far.
All right. How about you, John? Have you watched House of Dragon at all?
No, I have not.
I'll say this, okay? It's 2 episodes in, all right? Game of Thrones didn't get bad till, what, 5th or 6th season, maybe I want to say. It got less enjoyable for some of us. I'll wait and see. You know, I don't want to say I love it until right now. It's actually, I think it's pretty good. Right now, I think the pacing's good. We'll see what happens with the characters. It's kind of recapturing some of that love I had for the original Game of Thrones when I first started. So I don't know. I think it's more of a wait and see approach.
The good thing is, the source material is complete for this. It's a prequel, so it's based on stuff that's already done out of the way. We're not waiting for George to finish a chapter. Like, this is established lore that they're working with.
No, Game of Thrones, it's crazy how popular Game of Thrones still continues to be. I mean, it being number 1 on HBO Max, and just it's just crazy. I thought maybe some of the love would have faded for Game of Thrones, especially after the finale, but clearly that's not the case. So I don't know if it is word of mouth that just is bringing it back or whatever the case is. People are just really into Game of Thrones still, which again, kind of surprised. Usually a show's lucky that they're able to get such achievement after such a long break, because it's been quite a while in terms of television and movies where, we had a project and it's been a couple of years, right? At least now.
Yeah.
And just, that, and in terms of most things, that would kill it in the zeitgeist of the community, I would think. But apparently not. Game of Thrones still running strong.
Right.
What else we've been watching, Julie? I know one show we were watching, The Sandman. I finally started watching. I absolutely love it. I think it's one of the best shows on Netflix right now. Talk about superhero fatigue. This show kind of treads the line. It's in the DC universe, but it's not. It makes some references, but it's not fully there. Have any of you guys watched it? Adam, have you checked out The Sandman? I think you'll love it. I think you need to watch it. I'm pretty sure.
It was on Netflix, right?
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
Okay.
I guarantee you'll love it. John, I know you'll love it. You'll probably be like, what the hell did you make me watch? But that's what I did intend to do to you most of the time. But Sandman, it's very...
So good.
It's visually groundbreaking in a lot of ways. I think also as far as storytelling, it's a little bit more unique than the normal show. It uses a lot of cool tricks with the camera where like it'll change aspect ratios, and it's not what you'd expect, right, Julia? It feels more like an anthology series in some ways.
Yeah, because there's not a huge overarching plot. It's kind of like little mini stories in this universe.
It's weird.
It's not what I was expecting it to be.
The first few episodes, there is this plot of I don't want to get too spoiler into it, but Dream has to get back to where he was, as far as the main character Dream has to get back into his realm, I guess you could say,
with his tools and all that.
It's about four episodes, maybe 3 or 4 episodes, and it kind of wraps up, and you're like, oh, is this the end of the show? But it still keeps going, which I thought was interesting. It's like, oh, that isn't the end of the story, but they kind of move on to the next, which I can appreciate. It kind of told a short story within the overarching narrative, I guess. For lack of a better.
I kind of like that, because usually I want to know whenever a story ends. I want to know what happens after that too.
Yeah, that's what
I kind of like that.
Yeah, because again, it really wrapped up, and I was just really surprised. I'm like, oh, okay, it's the show over. I thought it was 4 episodes of the show. Then I'm like, oh no, we still got a lot more to go. I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. So if that intrigues you, then I think Sandman. I've never read Sandman, which I know is one of the biggest cardinal sins as far as being a comic book guy. I've seen bits and pieces of Sandman. I've seen some of the visuals, and Neil Gaiman, for most of them who know, is an amazing writer. But it's one of those things I have to. I have to commit to and read. I did pick up the whole series. It was actually discounted on Amazon, to Julie's chagrin. I bought another 5 or 6 books that are now on our bookshelf. But I will read it. I promise. I will read it, and I will report back to everyone. I promise.
I will say I've never read it, but a lot of people have been posting side-by-sides of the show and stuff from the graphic novels, and it really is shot for shot in a way, literally lifted from the pages, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing visual storytelling, and from the changes that they made, from what I've heard, as certain characters, and I think there's a complaint for the show being a little too woke. I've heard. Don't listen to that chatter. I'm sorry, that's nonsense. This isn't one of those situations. This is more of a change where I think a lot of it was needed if you've seen some of the source material characters. And if it makes sense in the universe, why not change it? Why not be a little more inclusive? I don't see anything wrong with that. And I think Sandman's a good example of that, in my opinion. Even one of my favorite characters, they gender swap, and I've fallen in love with this new character, which I'll talk about when we talk about the Sandman at some point. But all right, guys. Trying to think what else we've been watching. We've also been watching a lot of horror stuff lately. I got you on a horror kick. American Werewolf in London. We watched Tremors the other night. A lot of the Adams. Look at there. He's nodding over there. Tremors is a classic. It was a classic in my household growing up. I don't know how many times I watched that on the Sci-Fi Channel, but it still holds up, guys. Kevin Bacon classic.
One other big thing we've been going into is more TV, The Rehearsal with Nathan Fielder.
Yes.
And then spiraling into Nathan For You.
All right, why don't you talk about what that show is just real quick, because I think people do need to know what this is.
The Rehearsal is probably the most amazing production that I've ever seen. I can't even believe that it's a real thing. So it's this comedian, Nathan Fielder. He had a show on Comedy Central, Nathan For You, which we've been backpedaling with. where he would help small businesses with like these off the wall business tips. Like he went to like a frozen yogurt shop and was like, oh, we'll make a poo flavored frozen yogurt to bring in customers because you're creating controversy so people will come in. All the ideas are horrible. So that is hysterical. But you can see, like, going back and watching that, you can see that it's building up to the rehearsal. So with the rehearsal, he is helping people through life events by explicitly rehearsing every single detail of that event before it happens. So like the first episode is this guy who lied to his friends about having a master's degree, and he wants to tell his one friend. So Nathan goes in and he helps him, and he recreates the bar where they go to trivia night, like in a set, every minute detail, recreates the bar, hires an actress to be his friend, and the actress goes and talks to the friend to try and get her mannerisms down. Every little aspect of the night, and then they rehearse it over and over and over again, and throwing curveballs here and there so he feels prepared to actually do the event. And Nathan himself actually rehearses, like before he met the guy, he did a rehearsal of what it would be like to actually meet and talk to the client, I guess, if you will.
It's one of those shows, like, even Julie describing it, it's probably like, what the hell are you talking about? But when you actually watch it, I guarantee you'll be mesmerized by how crazy the show is. It's incredibly surprising, I thought. It's one of those shows, too, where it bridges on is it real or is it not real? I can't really tell half the time. Like, is this a joke, or are these plants, or are they not? Like, it's hard to tell. And I actually really enjoyed it. I had no interest in watching it at first, but once we got into it,
yeah, I watched the first episode. I forget. I think you and John were hanging out, and I'm like, he has to watch the show. And it's mesmerizing. It's so good. That's on HBO.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I definitely recommend that. Yeah, but good stuff. All right, guys. So what else has been going on? There's been some stuff in the news. We've missed a lot of news since we've been gone, obviously. A whole crap ton of stuff has happened. We've had HBO Max merging with Discovery and Warner Brothers colliding in upon itself. So what do you, let's take, I want to read the room real quick. So how are we feeling about this whole, like, Warner Brothers debacle with everything? HBO Max is now merged with Discovery. We see DC's taking a hit. They had Ezra Miller controversy nonstop, which that could be a video on itself of how many hours of nonsense has been going on with him, and him just flat out apologizing, acting like nothing ever happened, and hoping people forgot about it. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to work, in my opinion, but hey, you do what you got to do, guys. Adam, what do you think of all the nonsense? Because I have a couple things we'll talk about, but what do you think as far as like what's been going on with HBO?
The main thing that I saw was that they were removing all of their like animated shows.
How wrong is
and
that,
series.
right?
That's so heartbreaking. I see all the things I posted on Twitter and stuff. Like, it's just so upsetting seeing all these artists that go to such great lengths to make these shows and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden they're all just taken down, canceled, being bought up by other companies or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, it's very upsetting. It's very disheartening.
Right, and it shows I feel like I never discovered, and maybe now that I saw, there was one actually that looked kind of interesting, which I didn't even know about because it was never promoted in the first place. So how was I supposed to know about it if, you know what I mean? It's terrible to see. I hate when content gets removed, which is why I have such a big push for physical media. Me and John feel the same way about that, definitely, where if you want it, you better own it in some capacity because it could be gone. And this is a good example where these shows are disappearing. Who knows where they're going to turn up, unless you downloaded episodes or something along those lines.
Well, even like their HBO, like Max original movies or shows, and taking that all, like, that's just insane to me. Like, I know that other things, it's just the cycle. Like, they no longer own the rights to stream it, whatever. But, like, removing your own original content is just insane to me. Like, if Netflix next month's like, oh, yeah, Stranger Things is gone and you can never watch Stranger Things again. You know what I mean? Like,
realistically, could. I mean, not that it would, but it could. You know what I mean? Especially for smaller projects. That one I'm surprised was it The Pickle? Is that the one?
I've been wanting to watch that, so I guess I don't know how I'm ever
Seth
going to
Rogen's a big actor. You think they just like removed his movie? Like, all right, we're just done with that. It was over.
And it's all because it's a tax write-off, right?
Yeah, it's a tax write-off for them. Which that was Batgirl too. Batgirl getting the plug pulled, which is pretty crazy. What do you guys think about that? You have any thoughts I mean, we didn't really see anything. I heard some snippets about the storyline where she was going to take over for Michael Keaton's Batman in his universe. I don't think that would have went over very well, so maybe that wasn't a great idea. But the idea of the story, it sounded kind of cool. I feel like the directors were kind of really into it. The actress that played Batgirl was very into it. Mm-hmm. Anyone have any thoughts on that? Like, just seeing that movie completely shelved?
It goes back to what Adam was saying. Like, you have people that spent, like, I don't know, a year plus of their life probably filming, editing, putting everything together, and it literally gets thrown into the garbage, you know? So it was done. It was complete. I could see, like, if they started filming and, like, you know what, it's not jiving, you know, let's just cut our losses here. But, like, a completed project to just not ever come to life is insane.
I think it's crazy. What do you think, Adam?
I don't know, because at that point, it's like, I guess, do they want to tarnish their DC name any more than it's already tarnished? So it's like, I don't know. It's tough. I guess it's a you really have to gauge what I guess whatever your audience thinks. And
right, and it seems like they've had quite an issue for quite a while, DC, right, of gauging what their audience wants or even is. I think to a lot of extent, I don't think they have any idea what's going on. How about you, John? What do you think of this whole HBO DC shenanigans?
I think it really just comes down to certain big companies that are going to try to own everything, and then they get to choose exactly what they want their company to be like, and then they get rid of some of these smaller projects, which then it almost leads into where you want to try and go see these smaller budget films, just so you can keep these people around, so then it's not controlled by one group or one big conglomerate company.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of with that too, I think there is a lot of worrisome when you have like smaller movies that if you make a movie and it could just be ripped from existence out of nowhere, you made a deal with Netflix, HBO, whatever the case is, they decide, your movie's not fitting enough, it's gone from the platform, you'll never see it again. I think there's a fear for that. It's interesting to see though that Warner Brothers, there's a report that came out that Warner Brothers insiders are saying that the reason for DC's like failure right now is because of Zack Snyder's Justice League, which I kind of don't think so, but let me just say what they said. So there was a report that came out, and this was from Variety. They said insiders in Warner Brothers are claiming that Zack Snyder's Justice League never should have happened since it further divided the fan base against the studio. There may be more ongoing tweaking with films like Aquaman 2 to match up the timeline now that it released after Flash. But essentially what they're saying is that people became disgruntled. Like that whole Warner Brothers sucks. They handicapped the Zack Snyder Justice League movie and they put out their own version. They're blaming what they did for the reaction that they're getting now. I think that's nonsense. I don't know about you guys. They should just never have done that in the first place, clearly. Because all from what I've seen, and I haven't finished Zack Snyder's Justice League, the complete cut, as it were now, it's a million times better. Like, it's just that's what should have came out. Regardless if you really like the film or not, it's a better movie overall. So clearly there was something there that shouldn't have been tampered with. What do you think, Adam? Do you think that's like a justifiable reason going on?
I don't know.
I think that's bullshit.
Yeah, it sounds like they're looking for a scapegoat at this point, but like, we got to blame somebody. Let's blame Zack Snyder. Right,
and there's a lot of weird controversy. They're saying like there were like bots that were created on Twitter to try and like cheer for the Zack Snyder cut to be re-released and stuff, which might be true. It probably is true to be honest.
A certain extent, sure. Yeah, probably.
But you should never have handicapped the movie in the first place.
Right. I was just going to say, even if there was, can you blame the audience then if they know that the original product was tampered with and edited and scrapped or whatever, and they were disappointed with the product that they received? Like, of course they're going to want to see what it was supposed to be, what it was intended to be.
Right. And it's just, I don't know. It's like we're such a toxic community at times, especially when it comes to comic book movies and stuff like that in general, where I feel like, and I've noticed this more lately. Like we talked briefly about Thor, the new Thor Love and Thunder movie. It's interesting to see how split we've become, whether either you love it or you hate it. You can't be in between anymore with things. And unfortunately, DC's come to the lines where everything they do, people tend to hate for the most part, that wasn't Peacemaker. That was the only thing I can remember that people actually loved. And Peacemaker is really good, to be honest. And it actually was what people have been looking for. Even the people that try to hate it really don't find justifiable reasons for it. But I think DC really needs to take a look and see what they're doing. Black Adam, I don't really know if I have any faith in that movie. I don't know. I mean, I could be pleasantly surprised. John, what do you think? You think Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson there's got enough charisma to save DC? I don't know.
I don't know if he has enough charisma to save DC the whole, but I think that him as an actor, I feel like he can do a good part for that movie and help that movie big time. But also like what you're saying too, them saying that, blaming one person for the whole demise of a big thing like DC, which they've been doing for so long now and done it so terribly that it hasn't been good. I feel like that's just one of those things where they're like, we need a scapegoat, but we need to try to make sure that when we have a whole bunch of plans for these new DC movies that we don't want people to be afraid to go see, in a way.
Yeah, I mean, no one's afraid to go see The Flash, right? I'm sure everyone wants to go see The Flash starring superstar Ezra Miller. I'm sure no one is hesitant to go see that movie. I am sure. Which I think is even funnier, because I read a couple things where they were trying to do that thing where they have like a screener of the movie, and everyone's like, this might be the best DC movie ever made. This might be like the best, everyone has to go see it. Marvel does that with every movie. Does anyone actually realize that when they have like the press screenings? Like, this is the best Marvel movie ever made, and it's just people being almost paid to say that. You just should go see the movie for yourself.
I mean, you could probably go back and say that and you see that for every single movie that came out, the best Marvel movie ever made, best Marvel movie ever made.
DC's done it quite a few times. Batman vs. Superman, I remember them saying, this was the best Batman-Superman movie to date. This is going to be the best. Justice League had it too. Justice League exactly had it too.
But then it works both ways. And then how do I know that that's just not bots creating hype for the movie? It works both ways.
It doesn't make any sense. It's so, we're beyond that now. I mean, it's tough. I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see what happens, because now another issue with Warner Brothers, and I'm actually more personally attached to this in a way, is Legendary Pictures, which is a big studio for Warner Brothers. They're starting to pull out. They're testing the market, and for those who don't know, Legendary is responsible for a lot of things, such as Dune, which is a big series, the Godzilla movies. Godzilla's actually been shopped in a couple places, I believe. I think Apple has something going on with the Godzilla King Kong series. It's interesting to see how important Legendary Pictures is, and they don't want to work with Warner Brothers because they're afraid of what they're doing. Warner Brothers only has 2 movies coming out this year. They can only afford to put out 2 movies. They can only afford to put out Black Adam and was it Hello, Darling? Which that's another. We have so much controversy.
Don't Worry,
we haven't
Darling.
really talked about Don't Worry, Darling. That's it. That's another movie we have so much controversy going on with.
Mm-hmm.
What are they doing? This is not looking good for Warner Brothers. I'm curious to see what you guys think. Do you think we're going to see Warner Brothers end? Do you think we're going to see them merge with somebody else, or?
I think they're going to have to. If you can only afford as a studio to release 2 movies, that's insane to me. And your big entities, your big products or whatever are leaving or tanking, everything DC, like you said, aside from Peacemaker, is bombing. And then you have Godzilla leaving, you have Dune leaving. Those are huge properties. It's scary. It's scary for them. You have a star of one of your big movies literally not torturing, but wreaking havoc across the world.
You mean Hollywood superstar Ezra Miller? They would do nothing wrong, would they?
No. They're very sorry, though.
They're very sorry that they did that, though. Let's be clear. They're very sorry that they...
Yeah, he's very sorry he did it about 10, 12 times. But,
very sorry. Very, very... Had a baby chewing on a bullet casing and I don't know. That story... you can't get past that. I'm sorry. The Flash movie could be the best movie ever made. It's not going to change how I feel about it. I might just not see it because of Ezra Miller. I really kind of don't want to give him any money. I want him to get negative monies. Negative.
You get no
That isn't
money.
gonna work. You get no monies. You lose. Good day, sir. Like that's it.
Well,
We're
they
done.
should deduct it if it whatever money it makes. Be like, this is how much it costs for us to try and cover up the PR drama you were causing for us. Like, you owe us damages.
And it gets even funnier because he's in 2 of the biggest franchises in Warner Brothers. He's in Fantastic Beasts, he's in the Harry Potter series, and he's in a DC franchise. Dude, I don't know how you messed that up, but good for you. Good for you that you can actually mess up that big, because it's wild. It's wild. John, what do you think? What do you think of the whole, like, do you think Warner Brothers could be bought out? Now, I don't understand market research. I'm not a market analyst or anything like that. Could we see Disney buy Warner Brothers? Is that a thing, or is that too much of a monopoly on the market? Because I feel like that's something Disney that could happen. I feel like.
I don't know about Disney.
I think Disney may want to buy Warner Brothers, but I think that there's going to be so many loopholes that they'll have to go through just to get through that.
Right.
And also, I feel like Disney would love to own Warner Brothers with all their archives and everything and helping their streaming platform and everything.
Right.
But I also feel like they have so much right now on their plate and in their backlog catalog right now that they don't need to be looking forward to be buying stuff to put out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they don't need more content. They got plenty of content as it is right now.
No, and they have so much more new stuff that they want to bring out too that they don't need to start working with old stuff trying to bring it back more.
Right, and it's interesting because I don't know who could buy Warner, but I wonder if Sony would have like skin in the game in this situation where they would be interested in like acquiring some of those licenses.
Maybe they'll finally give up Spider-Man.
Yeah, well, my thought would be, if anything, I feel like Warner Brothers would be divided up. I don't know if anyone else sees that. I could see like their film library, their television library, DC, just maybe. I think if anything, Disney would go after the DC library. I think that's what they would want. I don't know if they would want the rest of it. There is a lot there with Warner Brothers history, obviously. There's a lot of movies there, don't get me wrong. I could see them just saying, we want that DC license, and then, hell, on that Disney Plus tab, having a DC or a Marvel section to look at looks pretty good. You know, I'm just saying, as far as optics looks, that's not something they're going to be turning down.
Yeah, I also think they have to look at it too, I guess. We have to see where they are financially too.
Yeah.
Because all the things I've heard from them is they're looking to buy more things to make more money. But I also feel like they're in a bind where they're having that they spent so much already that I don't think they have as much as they would want to spend right now for Warner Brothers per se.
Well, it's funny you talk about that because how do we feel about Star Wars? Now, do you think the Star Wars acquisition paid off for Disney? Do you think they're making money off Star Wars with what they've done with the franchise to date? I mean, I don't know. Again, I'm not an analyst as far as that's concerned, but I think there's been more negative than positive with everything they've done with Star Wars up until now.
Yeah, but I think that's the other thing. That's where the whole thing is too. The negative publicity that they get is still publicity. No matter whether they do it wrong or they do it right, there's going to always be people that love it and people that hate it.
Yeah.
And I feel like 9 times out of 10, the more people that love something are the ones that are investing their money into it. And the people that are against something, they're very like, oh, well, I don't like this because of a certain reason. But I think the large majority still are enjoying the Star Wars, and Disney's making money by adding certain like lands to their theme parks and selling merchandise with Grogu and all this other stuff. I feel like they're making their money back in loopholes for what they paid for.
Yeah, no, exactly. I just saw my Baby Yoda mug. Yeah, it's one of those things, you know. I don't think. Now, let me ask you, Adam. Do you think Disney's making new Star Wars fans with what they're doing? Do you think, like the toys, for example, right? Do you think these toys, are kids really going and buying these toys they used to?
I would think so.
Yeah.
I would think so. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you're basically creating just another superhero, if you will,
right.
franchise. So it's like it's I would love, if I was younger, I would love a figure of the Mandalorian. Like
Right.
that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Or, any other characters that have come out recently. Like I don't know. I think so. All these new characters that come out, they're a hero to somebody, I'm sure.
Right. So
And you have to think about even the prequel movies. Like my brothers were really young. I was young when they came out. So like that was really their introduction to Star Wars. They watched those movies more than the original trilogy.
Oof.
You know what I mean? I know they did, but they did. You know what I mean? They were like that prime age group though, like 6, 7 years old when they came out. So like I'm sure they were buying those toys.
Listen, I remember I was there. All right, I'm not that old, but I remember the Phantom Menace release. Okay, I remember the hype train. Like Jar Jar Binks was on a pizza box. All right, that's crazy. That's madness now. Like, it was on everything. John, you remember it too. Don't even start. You remember Phantom Menace? How crazy that was, and all the stuff was coming out. How popular it was, and it's funny because without the internet, I never remember hearing like a bad thing about it. I was also a kid too. I was younger, so maybe I wasn't like as impacted by it. And that's something to remember too. When you're a kid and you see something like the spectacle that is Star Wars or Marvel or whatever that is, you don't care how good the movie is. I mean, right? I mean, most kids movies like that Minions Rise of Gru made like $1 billion or whatever at the box office. They're not worried about how cinematic quality it is or how much Gru's backstory adheres to the Minions backstory. They just want to be entertained. And you know what? At the end of the day, if it does that, the money's going to make itself. And I think that's kind of what Disney adopts in some ways with this Star Wars stuff. There is stuff for us older fans who are more critical because I think we're the ones that spend the money for the most part. I think the parents will with some of the toys and stuff like that. But, I mean, there's a reason they make $400 lightsabers. All right? The little kids aren't buying $400 lightsabers. It's us, the adults, that are buying that kind of stuff, And they have to appease that market to an extent whether they want to or not, unfortunately for them. But going into Star Wars, which actually brings me to something I really want to talk about. I'm curious what you guys think. Rian Johnson has showed up his face back in the world again after, because I guess he has the new Knives Out coming out. So he's probably going to do his little, screener, which I did like Knives Out a lot. If anyone hasn't seen that movie, phenomenal movie, actually. Shows why Rian Johnson is a really good director, and they should pay attention to him. Maybe just not with Star Wars, but anyway, he came out to say it's 5 years now, which is crazy to me that The Last Jedi is 5 years old at this point. I think that's insane. He actually reflected a little bit on his experience, saying, "I'm even more proud of what I did. When I was up to bat, I really swung at the ball. The ultimate intent was not to strip away. The intent was to get to the basic fundamental power of myth. And ultimately, I hope the film is an affirmation of the power of the myth of Star Wars in our lives." Did Rian Johnson do that with The Last Jedi? I mean, I know this has probably been talked to death on the internet, but with that perspective, do you think there was too much hate on The Last Jedi? Do you think people weren't ready for that? Or is it a bad movie? I'm just curious. I want to go around and see what you guys think. Adam, what did you think of The Last Jedi in general? Because we saw that together.
Yes,
we did. You did.
Yes.
And I remember us being like, it was okay.
It was all right. Yeah. I mean, I think I rewatched it again,
right,
maybe a couple months ago.
Right.
I thought it was still okay. I don't know. It just feels like another Star Wars adventure, I guess, at that point. Yeah, I have my gripes with it, but I don't hate it.
It's weird. It's my least favorite, I guess, out of the new ones, for sure.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
It's my least favorite. Trying to reflect a little bit more on it, I do think it was trying to do something with the vision. I think there is something there. I don't think it was a good idea, necessarily, because you didn't have a plan for what was going to happen afterwards, which I think is the bigger problem. Especially when you have a trilogy and you plan to do a trilogy, you probably should know what all three movies are about and have the directors be cohesive on what the ultimate vision is, instead of putting someone like Rian Johnson in that position where he's like, I want to do my own thing, I'm going to change the lore and do all this stuff, and then just backpedal at the next movie, which makes it look even worse for what you did. It's one of those situations. Is it a bad movie on its own? I don't think it's the best Star Wars movie.
No, it's not.
It's no Attack of the Clones. That's still pretty bad. That's still pretty up there.
I don't know. I find the prequels enjoyable.
Even Attack of the Clones?
Yeah. I don't know all that.
It's coarse. It's everywhere.
I I liked it. All right, I find them enjoyable. They're a fun watch.
All right. Well, for Christmas, I'm sending you a Jar Jar Binks pillow. Just so you can
That's
have
fine. Okay.
that. Me, so squeeze me.
Okay.
Hey, squeeze
Joke's on you. I like Jar Jar Binks, so
Wow, the one. So you're that one fan on the forum. I knew it. I knew there was someone.
Adam, are you like
That
on
is
the
me.
in the camp of like him being a Sith Lord?
oh,
Jar Jar Binks?
absolutely.
He
Right?
manipulated the
He
whole
voted
Senate.
him into the
There the
Senate.
entire time. He knows everything.
That's why he was
Manipulate the
kicked out of
Senate.
his community. Like
Yep, it's him.
It was
You'd
him.
be
facts are
surprised.
there.
I'll give you my quick thought on the prequels, just because I had to throw it out there. I do like the prequels. I like Star Wars. I do like everything Star Wars to a certain extent. It's just there's things that are enjoyable, things that aren't enjoyable. That can be said with any of the movies, but the first two don't need to exist. So, Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones don't need to exist. However, Revenge of the Sith I think is actually a really good movie. I actually do enjoy that one, and if you just showed me that one, I don't need to know anything else that happened before it to understand that movie. My opinion.
Yeah. All right, I get that.
Like you could
Yeah.
literally start and be like, oh, okay, there's these guys. This is his young Padawan or whatever. He's a Jedi Knight at that point, but he trained this guy how to fight, and they were best friends and they fought in this war together. Does any of the stuff that happened before that actually matter?
No, I guess not.
Right.
I guess if anything, it's just backstory, really.
Yeah.
I mean, the climax, their fight at the end is
It's
just
good.
I mean, yeah, no,
George
that is
Lucas
great.
did a
the best
phenomenal
part
job with
of the
that.
prequels.
Yeah.
I think just that lightsaber fight's phenomenal. That was like the peak of what Star Wars could do as far as.
And that's
a
like where I feel
lightsaber
like
fight.
Hayden got to show some of his like actual chops. Like everyone makes fun of his acting in the whole thing, but like during that whole sequence, phenomenal. The scream, oh, so good.
I hate you.
I do that all the time.
Yeah, she just says it to me all the time, so that should
I
tell you
do.
what it's like living around here. Yeah, I think they're good though. I do really enjoy this. I enjoy that movie, and if I'd be alive, I said pod racing isn't cool. Jango Fett to an extent isn't that cool. I do like Jango Fett, even though it's kind of stupid and kind of convolutes a lot of things with clones and whatever. George Toyboy Lucas, he knew what he was doing when he was making toys and action figures. So good for him. John, what do you think, man?
I mean, I'm in the boat of I like all the Star Wars, just based on like
I love all the Star Wars.
All the Star Wars.
All the Star Wars.
every
You love
single one of
Every
them.
single one.
Well, like I don't go into it like trying to find where these people try to hate certain parts of this or the lore is not right. This is not
But is
great.
Last Jedi good?
I mean, it's an okay movie. I'm not gonna say it's great, but I wouldn't say any of them were the absolute most garbage thing I've ever watched in my life. I mean, I've seen some crap, and that's usually on the TV. I mean, there's Hallmark movies that suck a lot worse than Star Wars movies, and we don't
But
talk about
Hallmark
that
movies
crap
are
every day.
supposed to suck.
Yeah, Star Wars really shouldn't suck, especially when you pay billions of dollars for it. You probably should make something that's actually pretty good.
But they made their money back, so there's their billions worth anyway.
They did. I mean, that's true.
I mean, I'm sure some of these other movies get a lot more money than we think they do, and you could be like, they suck. But
Yeah,
overall, I think most Star Wars movies are relatively from the okay to great level.
Okay. All right. So
I mean, I'm sure there are some busts.
That's
but,
a
you know,
pretty wide range, though. Okay to great.
Yeah, that's pretty. I don't know, man. You're sketching me out a little bit there with that. I will say though, The Last Jedi, it definitely had some really beautiful cinematography out of all the Star Wars movies, especially visually. There's some like stills from that movie that look really impressive. Even with the article that I found, they had a couple stills that were attached to it. And when I look at those pictures, I'm like, wow, those are really impressive. Like that throne room fight scene, even though they do that lightsaber thing where they make fun of it, like she didn't actually catch the lightsaber, would have chopped her hand off or whatever. They said it was like an impossible move. I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever. But the visuals still look good. That's what I'm getting at. The
But I
color
also
palette.
you could also go with Game of Thrones. Goes from okay to great too at points. Like nobody's like
Game of
there's
Thrones
no
goes from fantastic to.
absolute pile of garbage at the end.
Did you
Terrible.
watch it?
No.
So
Why would I
Zip.
watch
No.
it?
Zip.
No, it's
I didn't want to waste my time watching that garbage.
Oh boy. Anyway, I think we can agree. I think the issues with the new Star Wars prequels, and again, this are not prequels, sequels, is more so it's just there was no direct vision of what was going on. I think ultimately that was the bigger fail than anything else. I think maybe give Rian Johnson his own Star Wars movie set apart from everything that's going on. I think he could give us something impressive. I think he's a good director. Why not one more shot, right?
I think one of the biggest issues was the fact that, they changed directors mid-trilogy.
That's
so
it.
I guess if you look at it, maybe he did do well with what he was given.
Right.
I guess.
I think that's I think that's justifiable. Like if I were to say that, I think that's kind of how I look at it, where he did what he wanted to do because maybe they didn't know what was going to happen. They didn't know what was going to happen next. Clearly, they did not know what was going to happen.
Well, no, I think they did though. Like, because didn't J.J. Abrams have like a plan? And the problem was they were changing. I don't even think J.J. was supposed to do the third movie. I think they brought him back.
They were.
I don't know who was.
It was going to be three different directors. It was going to be three different.
Which
directors.
is stupid. Yeah, that's a stupid idea.
I mean, it can work. I think a lot of people forget, too, in the original series, George Lucas didn't direct all three Star Wars movies. He only directed the first one and Return of the Jedi. But Empire Strikes Back, I'll argue till I'm blue in the face, is the best Star Wars movie, especially because maybe he didn't direct it. Empire Strikes Back is the best Star Wars movie.
But wasn't he like the creative mind? Like he had the stories all mapped out. Yeah, he didn't direct it, but like there was a clear...
Which is what I think people forget, is that there was no clear, or there was a clear roadmap, but it wasn't followed, and that this is what happens,
Right.
I think Rian Johnson, if he were to end the series, that would have made more sense. Maybe he could have put like an exclamation point on the end of everything, because his movie, when you watch it, about like there's more Jedi out there to be found, and they're kind of coming back to life. That seems like an ending to like a saga. Right? That doesn't really seem like the ending to a second movie in a trilogy. His movie felt very final in the way it ended. And
it did, yeah.
Which is interesting. It's interesting to see that they will allow him to go in that direction, I think. But I
like how Adam said, like it felt like a Star Wars story, but like not the story that was happening.
Yeah. And I'll take a couple like failed TV shows versus like one bad movie. Like they should really, when they have a good idea, I think they should go in and make a movie or make a series of movies. At least with the TV shows, it's like low risk. Like Book of Boba Fett wasn't really anyone's favorite here on the channel, but it was still fine. It was still more Star Wars, low risk, low investment. It's fine. You know what I mean? It doesn't have as much of an impact as say like a big movie entry will in the Star Wars universe. I think we should save those for bigger events, which it seems like that's what they're doing. They kind of Solo was a good example of how not to make a Star Wars movie. So that might be the worst Star Wars movie. If we're really going to talk about the worst Star Wars movie, Solo I could not get through. And I watched it, and I really wish I didn't. Like, I really wish I did stop when I said I wanted to stop, because it just got worse.
That was one, like, I remember watching it, and, like, we paused it for whatever reason. I'm like, oh, we're only halfway through. Like,
and we paused it, like, 10 times. Like, I remember, like, briskly doing other things and coming back to finish it, because I'm like, I can't get through this garbage. It was that bad. I really had no interest.
I do want to circle back to like the new trilogy, because I don't know when this article came out, but John Boyega came out recently and said that The Last Jedi should have ended with a stormtrooper rebellion of some sort, and like more with Luke, like a redemption arc with Luke. And I'm like, that would have been great, like especially with his character like being a stormtrooper. Like I feel like that should have been like elements that were more.
I think there was always something interesting about that. Like I don't know, maybe there's politics involved or whatever the case is, but Finn's character was like the most interesting out of all of them. He was way more interesting than Rey. Rey, and not because she's a woman or anything like that, I just didn't think her character was that interesting. She's an orphan on a sand planet. Okay, we kind of had that with Luke already, and you know what I mean? That's just the story retelling itself. Finn was actually like a person, he was a stormtrooper, he was brought into this corps, and then he got released. And he looks like he's force sensitive. They hinted at it quite a few times that it looks like he had force abilities. Isn't that story more interesting to tell than just like, oh, Rey is good because of genetics, because of who she's related to, and this whole big reveal? That's not that interesting to me. Someone brand new entering this universe and making a difference, I think that's a more interesting story. But, maybe they didn't appear to think so, I guess. Legacy means more. She had to be related to Palpatine.
Maybe he'll get his own Disney Plus show
Yeah,
of
well,
him becoming a Jedi.
Yeah, well, he said no more Star Wars. Isn't that like his big thing? He said,
Oh, that's right.
I'm not going to go near Star Wars ever again. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all say that until they get the money.
Yeah.
Well,
Money
look
talk.
Look at Harrison Ford. Is he like, he's just like a puppet now, right? Like he's not even like a human being anymore.
They sent him that big check, and he's like, "Oh yes, master."
I bow
nervous. To the mouse.
I'm so nervous for Indiana Jones.
Yep.
I'm so afraid of what's going to happen in that movie.
Mhm.
Like, even me and Julie were just talking about that because I remember watching Crystal Skull and being like, how's he able to do all that? I'm not really buying that. So you're going to tell me he's still going to be doing all that now? No.
Right?
No.
The worst is when you go back and you rewatch like the old Indiana Jones movies, and you're like, all right, these are pretty good. Then you start going on and on. You're like, all right, they're a little bit getting worse now.
No, not at all. What are you talking about? This guy over here. I live 2 minutes from you now. I can go over there and we're gonna take care of this.
You ain't coming over here. It's too much walking for you.
Oh my god.
Not far.
Hey, it's not that far. 2 minutes. I can do it. All right, brisk walk, man. Brisk walk. But seriously, Indiana Jones. The first three are they're great movies. They're all great for different reasons. This is an Indiana Jones discussion, though. We'll save that for another day. But we'll see. Star Wars, will continue to go on. It is a powerhouse. It's something I'm sure we'll talk about at least every couple episodes here on the channel because they just tend to do something we're going to talk about. Speaking of legacy characters, I thought this was really interesting. John Carpenter is one of my favorite directors of all time, and I think a lot of that has to do with how bluntly honest he is with making movies. They asked him about Halloween. For all you know, Halloween is like near one of the perfect horror movies ever made. Like the first Halloween is a phenomenal movie. They asked him about the sequels, and John Carpenter said, "I made the first one as a director, and that's the only one I care about except for the paycheck I get for the others. I hate to be that kind of guy, but that's the truth." Respect. Respect. Do you think there's a lot of directors in Hollywood that feel that way? How do you guys feel about that?
I mean, yeah, I feel like it's more about the money at the end. Like, they're not so concerned about how their characters look in other films, per se.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, John Carpenter, he's been blatantly honest in the past like that, where he's just like, I liked the first one. They had to beg him to come back and do the second Halloween, and then he really wanted to be done after that, but they kept making more Michael Myers movies. Just seems to be the way it goes. What do you think about that, Adam? How do you feel? Do you respect that? Do you think it's kind of shitty to be that way? What do you think?
Well, isn't he like a producer or something on the new ones or something like that? Still?
Yeah, he is. He's producing, correct.
So I don't know. Kind of, I wonder how much he's actually producing on it. I guess. I don't know. I don't know. I guess in my head it seems kind of bad, but I don't know how that world works. So I guess at that point maybe I would be the same exact way. But like, yeah, I did my part. You guys can do whatever you want with it now. As I don't really care. Yeah,
because I think a part of it has to do with John Carpenter. I think he has to give like the go ahead almost to some extent. I believe. I don't know. I know Blumhouse owns it now, so it's kind of
okay.
But I don't know. Again, like you said, that world, I don't know how that works.
I mean, maybe for him, he's like, I set the bar so high. I know what I created. So you guys can do whatever you want. Right. I don't really care anymore.
Yeah, I think that's part of what it is. And I think, like he said, it's just nice to get a paycheck.
Right.
How would you feel, like, say you made a character, right? Say you made this, like, amazing character that was in this movie that's beloved by millions of people, and they started churning out sequels about it. How would you feel? Like, say you got a paycheck, you were compensated. Would you feel bad that something you made changed so much?
Yeah, I'd be pretty upset, honestly.
Honestly, you'd be pretty upset?
Yeah, I would be. Because, I don't know, it's like that's my creation. I made that. That's mine. And now I'm just letting people run rampant with it. I don't really like that.
I think I'd be the same way, to be honest. I think just to see it twisted into something I don't even recognize anymore might kind of hurt me. But for what it's worth, Michael Myers, I think, has kind of retained what's made him interesting. I mean, he's a big guy that kills people. The movies definitely don't reflect the first Halloween at all. The first Halloween is still a scary movie. That's still like a pretty intense stalker thriller horror movie, in my opinion. What do you think about that, Julie? What do you think of John Carpenter's quote there? We've talked about this before.
I guess I like what Adam said. Like, he set the bar so high, like there's no topping it. But I mean, I would feel what it's become. I mean, I guess it's a little bit better than some of like that middle of the road, entries with him. But to see it like fall so far from your original vision, it's got to sting a little bit. But then, I don't know how complicated things gets with, with ownership and rights and stuff like that. So if it's one of those things, like someone's going to keep making those movies somewhere, somehow, like you might as well get a paycheck out of it. It's not going to be what you would have created, but if people are going to do it anyways, I'm happy to get a paycheck.
Yeah, I mean,
Kind of philosophy, I don't know.
it's tough, and John Carpenter, he's been around for so long. I mean, John Carpenter's made so many classic, just horror movies in general. It sucks to see one of your like children go off and continue on. I guess it is like the same way, right? You have a child and they make some life choices you don't agree with. Michael Myers, he made some life choices you didn't necessarily agree with, but he's still getting money for it. So what are you going to do, I guess, at that point? It's just one of the details of the business. Speaking of things going on forever, do we have any Rick and Morty fans here? Anyone big Rick and Morty fan? Adam's not? Really, Adam? I thought you might be interested in Rick and Morty. No? Did you never give it a shot? Never cared
I've only seen clips or any other kind of media they've ever been in, but no, I've never actually watched it.
Never actually watched it. Well, you might have to change your tune because it sounds like Rick and Morty is going to be sticking around forever. According to Dan Harmon and Justin Rowland, who are the creators of Rick and Morty, they went on to say that they're right now they're currently on track for at least another season. They're like a year out. They're already like planning seasons going forward. But they ultimately said that they think the series could go on forever. Kind of like The Simpsons, where it's just been going on. I don't even know how many Simpsons seasons there are. It's 27, 30, something maybe. I don't know. Something around those lines. But what do we think of that? Do we think that's fine? Should shows end at some point? Rick and Morty, it's fine for me. Like, I enjoy Rick and Morty. I'm not caught up with it currently, but I do enjoy it. I think a lot of the jokes are really good. Does a show have to necessarily end? Do we put like a weird stigma on things that they have to end, or can shows go on forever like that? What do you think, Adam? Do you think like a lot of people make the comparison that The Simpsons should have ended a long time ago, but is there anything wrong with a show like that lasting as long as it has?
I don't think so. I think that if it has the fan base, why not?
Right.
And if there are people still supporting it, I think it could easily go on forever.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said too. Like the style of your show matters too. Like shows
Absolutely.
like The Simpsons, Rick and Morty. I think it really relates to a lot of the animated shows, right? Like the American Dads, Family Guy, like those shows. They can kind of go on forever, right?
Right.
There's really no overarching story. Like there is Rick and Morty. I think does to an extent have some kind of like overarching story, but these other shows, they're more like the sitcom kind of animated shows. They can just keep going as long as they're topical, like South Park, stuff like that. Like they can just keep going. Like what does there have to be an end? John, do you think there has to be an end to a show, or something we can just keep on going? Or
No, I think as long as they keep coming up with new ideas, they can keep putting them out. I mean, there's nothing wrong with what they're doing. It's just they make more and obviously people are watching them, so just keep putting them out, I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree. What about you, Julie? What do you think about? What do you like Rick and Morty? You watch it on occasion. I feel like every season there's a couple good laughs out of a couple of the episodes.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they have a vision and have ideas, I mean, I don't see a reason why they couldn't keep going. Yeah, animated shows like that are kind of like that weird anomaly where they can go on for like 20, 30 years and it doesn't really matter. But like other shows with, live action shows, I guess, if you will, like, I feel like more easily outstay their welcome.
Yeah, which ties in perfectly with our last little thing I want to talk about right now. Netflix has canceled Resident Evil after one season. That's the announcement. I don't think any of us were surprised. Adam, were you entirely surprised after the backlash of Resident Evil that it was canceled so quickly?
Unfortunately, no, not in the slightest.
As soon as I heard the one scene, I think there's a scene where I guess he's Wesker, right? The main guy is Wesker. He goes into his children's room and goes, "Just so you know, you've been bitten by a zombie, but don't worry, it doesn't spread like COVID does. It spreads like in another way." Wow. We went there in a Resident Evil show. We went there that quickly, didn't we? I didn't even watch it. I'm going to be honest with you because I don't know. I mean, I had some interest. I think the trailer was more hype than it deserved to be. Maybe I thought the trailer had some interesting things to it. It's still not Resident Evil, and to be honest, I don't know what a Resident Evil show would look like. Do you have any ideas, Adam, from playing any of the games or anything like that? Like, what does a Resident Evil show look like? Because we've had quite a few attempts now. We've had animated, live action. What do we want for an animated?
I don't know.
Evil?
At this point, I don't even know if there should be a show.
Should we just let it go? Is it one of those?
Just
like,
leave it as a game. It's
yeah,
fine.
Just let it go. I think I'm with you on that because
Yeah.
every time we try, it doesn't go well. Because even like the animated movies, I've seen quite a few of them. They're not that great. Like it's just like.
I mean, that might be the only way I could see it actually working out, but it obviously has to be, good. Maybe like an anime or something.
That might be good. Maybe there's something that could happen there. It's just like Resident Evil is a weird animal in itself. If anyone who's played the games, like sometimes the games vary in tone quite a bit as well. Resident Evil 4 is one of my favorite video games of all time. Leon Kennedy having to save the president's daughter from a village of zombies is by far one of the craziest things. There's like a Napoleon guy as a zombie monster that you have to fight, and it makes no sense. It's crazy. But then you go and play like Resident Evil 2 Remake, and it's super serious zombie horror. Resident Evil kind of it's all over the place. The movies themselves, the games themselves, I should say, are all over the place. So it kind of makes sense that the movies too are kind of all over the place. So I don't know what the fan base wants, because I don't think even Capcom knows when they're making a game what they necessarily want. They just reinvent and they see what sticks and they go forward. That's a whole nother discussion for a video game segment maybe down the line. But, do what it is. Julie, you don't even care about Resident Evil. We've tried watching it a couple times.
No, I enjoy watching you play the games.
Yeah,
I like the stories, the puzzles. There's a lot of great tension. I don't
how
even
does
know
that translate? What do you think about that translating? Like that's
right. Like I don't think I've ever seen a full movie of the Resident Evil, or maybe I did, but they have nothing to do with the games other than like splashing the Umbrella Corporation, whatever the heck they are.
Hey, Resident Evil 2 had Nemesis in it, and Nemesis knows how to kickbox. Just so you know. Just saying. This big hulking monster kickboxed Mila Jovovich. All right, I'm just saying it happened in a movie. So you don't tell me what works for cinematic masterpieces.
It's so stupid. If they could find a way to get like not horrible actors, because I think that's a big part of it too. The actors usually suck in those movies. Getting like a decent cast, good production value, good effects. Like I think it's doable. I don't think it's impossible. You just need to have the right team behind it.
It's interesting you say that because I think a lot of people forgot that Welcome to Raccoon City, that Resident Evil movie that came out, like, what was it, 2019? I want to say around there. I finally got around to watching it. I bought it like a while ago. It was like really discounted, like it should be. I picked it up and I'm like, let me give it a shot. What's the worst 2 hours of my life? I have to waste. So let's give this a shot. It was really bad, to be expected. I think there was some cool practical stuff that was in it. At least this director seemed like they were trying to get things from the games and make it a little more interesting. But it's just like I don't think they understand anything about Resident Evil. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't think it's kind of like I was saying with Adam. Like, maybe it just doesn't translate. I think there are things that just don't translate to movies. Some things are just uniquely a game experience, and they should be left as such. Can you think of anything else, Adam, that's like just uniquely a game experience that you couldn't see translate?
I don't know. I mean, look at Tomb Raider. That's obviously suffered many times over.
Uncharted.
To that one as well. That's pretty much just.
I'm Mark Wahlberg. What are you talking about? I'm Sully.
Yeah, sure you are.
Sully. I met you at a bar, Nathan.
I
knew your
don't
brother.
know.
I feel like they could, though. If you had the right group, the right people, it could translate.
I think
Especially
I agree.
those two, Tomb Raider and Uncharted.
I agree.
Those are like the easiest ones to probably translate almost one for one to like make them like good, and for whatever reason they just don't work out that way. And
It's like they have all the
understand.
source material is right there. You have, everything that you need to make all of this stuff. Yet, I don't know, for some reason, I guess the directors and the producers of these films are like, we have our own vision, and it's not related to that
Right.
whatsoever.
Like, no, I want to do it this way, and that's how it's
Yeah.
going to be. How about you, John? What do you think? What do you think about video game? Now, can you think of any video games that did translate well to movies?
Yeah, Sonic.
Yeah, that was a good one. You were ready for that.
I was thinking about it. It's the first one that came to my mind.
And you know what? Sonic, it took like what worked in Sonic and they put it into like another, and they made it like, they adapted it, right? Which is, I think, is what all these directors are trying to do in some instances, adapt the material for, a different kind of audience. Sonic did it right. I think that was probably the best adaptation. I also thought Detective Pikachu did a good job too, even though it wasn't a full-on Pokemon movie, maybe like a lot of us would have wanted. It's still really cool. I still think it worked, and I enjoy it. Even when it's on now, I've occasionally watched it from time to time. I don't know. I don't know. Going into that, I thought there was also something we could talk about is so Resident Evil got canceled after one season, which, that's usually a pretty big sign that your show sucks. What do you guys think? Are there other shows now? This can go either way. Do you think there's shows that should have ended earlier, or shows that maybe should have gone on and shouldn't have been canceled after one season? The one season thing is quite contentious when you look online. There's a lot of shows where people thought they should have kept going, had more. There's ones that they should have done sooner. Julie, what do you think? Do you have something that you think maybe should have ended sooner, or?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
I'm guilty of continuing to watch it because it was so bad that you couldn't stop watching it. But The Secret Life of an American Teenager on what was it? It's now Freeform, whatever that channel was.
Yeah.
It used
What's
to
that
be.
one
It was.
about? I don't even remember.
What's that show about? The Secret Life of the American Teenager? Oh, let me tell you. It's about this girl that gets pregnant at band camp.
Oh, that's
by,
the
like,
show
a
Amanda
cocktail
likes, right,
guy.
John? She liked that show.
Oh my
Shailene
god.
I
Woodley's
remember
in
that.
it.
We watched that. Like, I remember we were like, you guys were first dating. She made us watch that
It's
show. I
so
remember that.
It's the worst thing
bad. Molly
ever.
Ringwald's in it. She's the mom.
I think I finished the whole season too, and I was just like, oh my
I don't think I
god.
finished the show. I think I almost finished it, but I did not. It is so banana. Like, people will post clips of it now, and I'm like, how did this make it onto television? Like, there's a plot line where the one like Christian character ends up like having sex with her boyfriend, and then her dad, who's a doctor, like ends up dying in a plane crash, and she blames herself. Like, she believes that her having sex is the reason why her dad died in a plane crash.
What the hell is that?
Oh God. It's so bad, but it's almost like funny to watch it. But that went on for easily like 5 or 6 seasons.
Oh my god.
Shouldn't have made it past season 1.
But that kept going. I guess it had an audience.
It kept going. Oh man, did it keep going?
All right, Adam, what do you got? Do you have something that maybe should have ended or could have gone longer? What do you think?
I don't know, because I started thinking like there's probably a reason why these shows ended after a season. So I cannot. The only one I can think of is there was a show that I watched when I was younger. It was called Surface. I know there's another show that had come out recently with the same title, but it was like in 2005 or 6 or something like that. But it ended on a very bad cliffhanger. And I was like, oh wow, I can't wait for season 2. And then all of a sudden, canceled.
Is it about a marine biologist?
Yeah, that one.
I don't remember that show.
Yeah, no, it had a very, I guess, apparently it's got a very specific audience, because I started looking up like reviews on it, and there are a lot of people that wish that it came back again.
That's interesting. I never even heard of that one before.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna check it out now. Now you've got me. I'm curious.
I think it's like maybe 12 episodes or something like that.
Yeah. Now I'm curious. That's not. I mean, the description's kind of cool for it.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, a marine biologist, an insurance salesman, and a teenaged boy find their lives fundamentally changed by the emergence of a new and often dangerous species of sea life, while government agents work to keep the affair under wraps.
See, that sounds interesting.
That sounds pretty interesting to me. I'm surprised. Maybe it was budgetary reasons. Is it one of those kind of things? Maybe.
I think it was canceled because it didn't get to good feedback.
Oh, you know why? It was on NBC.
Oh yeah, well that too.
Well, NBC just cancels anything that they don't like. Apparently,
Yeah.
I think should. Okay, interesting though. All right, that's a good one. How about you, John? You got anything that you want to share with the class?
Yeah, I think the show on Netflix, 13 Reasons Why. I think that
How
should
did
have
that get
ended.
a second season?
That should have
Oh,
ended after the
God.
first one and then over. I don't need any more
Yeah.
crap. That was almost like one of those things that they did. They were like, "Oh, people really like this. Let's try to dig more deeper into this." And it's like, no, it's over.
That show went off the wall.
Because the
Yeah.
first season's like
Bonkers.
the first season's about it has like a clear beginning and end story.
Well, it's based
Yes.
off the book.
Yeah. So what was
It was
the
over.
second season about?
Literally, they just almost. I think if I can remember it correctly, because I think I only watched like 3 more episodes after, and I was like, all right, this bullshit's just done. I was like, I think they were just going back to like the friends and them trying to talk about like what they did wrong or something like that. I don't clearly remember it 100%, but it was almost like everything happened and everything happened for a reason, and then it ended, and they're just like, well, let's try to take it from somebody else's point of view almost in a way. And it was kind of like,
Yeah.
all right, it's over now.
Didn't that have like 4 seasons total or something like that?
Oh, I
It
don't
definitely
even-
went more than 2.
Did it? All right.
Mhm.
After like the second 3 episodes, or the
I don't think I
second
even
season
finished the
3
first
episodes.
season.
See, I finished the first one because I was like, all right, kind of.
Yeah, you
And then
have to.
after that, I was like, well, why? First of all, I knew why did they do. I was like, why would you do a second season? And then I was like, I'm done.
I know there's one plot line in like a later season where like they find out one character has like HIV or AIDS, and then he like literally dies in the next episode from it. And they're like,
Huh.
like he was just diagnosed and then he died in the next episode.
They're like, hold on, this
It's
guy's not
not a
working.
funny thing to laugh at, but like just the execution of it. Like,
This guy's not going to work with us anymore. He was only signed on for 4
Yeah.
episodes. Let's kill him off.
All right, we gotta kill you off, classic TV style.
Hold on, HIV? Yep, dead.
HIV positive, dead.
Oh, this person cancer, dead next day. Like, come on.
I don't know. Those are the classic trappings of a TV show there. But that's an interesting one. I completely forgot about that show. I remember how popular that was when it came out, too. Like that, welcome to your tape was always like the thing. Remember we did that with your brothers, Julie? Remember that was always welcome to your tape? That was always like a
any
joke.
slight inconvenience, welcome to your tape.
Yeah, that was like the big insult. It's interesting. I have a couple shows that I always like to refer to that got canceled too soon. And I'm curious what you guys think. If you guys even know some of these shows. First one, my favorite show, which I don't even understand how it got canceled, and especially with like the way the world is now, it should have went on. Freaks and Geeks was an amazing show. When you go back and really just look at the cast that was in there, James Franco, Seth Rogen, I can't. There's just so many people in that show. It's insane to me how that show got canceled. Having that dichotomy where the humor was spot on, especially because that show brought in so many of the comedians that we have today that are popular. It was an ensemble cast of comedy perfection, yet somehow it couldn't make it past 1 season. A lot of people say it was like the airing schedule and things like that kind of were the downfall of that show. I think so. I think that had a lot to do with it. I think maybe if it caught on culturally now, it's one of those shows I think if it aired now, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I think it would still be going on, quite honestly.
I think at one point it got moved to like a Saturday night
Yeah, it was like a death
like,
sentence. for that
schedule,
show.
something bizarre.
No, it's insane how many people are on that show and all the writers and everything like that. It's just, I don't know, pure awesomeness that didn't make it. Another big one for me was Constantine. Speaking of DC shows, I really liked the first season of Constantine. Matt Reeves, who plays John Constantine, I think is phenomenal. I've said he would have worked great even as a Doctor Who type character, which is kind of what this show was. I felt like it was kind of going towards the American version of Doctor Who, which is something we could use here. I don't see anything wrong with that. Just never caught on. I think, like we said, it was on NBC, Adam. So, that's kind of what happens. If your show doesn't put the ratings up, you're gone, no matter how great your idea is. People tend to want to see it disappear. And Matt Reeves is still getting work. I mean, he's still playing John Constantine. He's played him in all the animated movies. He was on Arrow, Flash, Was it Legends of Tomorrow, whatever that other one is. He's been on all of those shows, so clearly there's still an investment with him, which even in Sandman, they wanted him to be in Sandman, but DC said no, so interesting factoid there, which at some point we'll come back to. I don't want to get into that because it's spoiler related, but we'll talk about that another time. Last show, which I think is a big one, this is where I also have that discussion too, is Firefly was such a huge show. It was pretty much what got Joss Whedon on the map again after Buffy the Vampire Slayer. People love Firefly. It's a dedicated fan base, I want to tell you. Now, I've seen Firefly. I've seen Serenity. I think it ended fine. I think it could have kept going. But I think it stems to the question is maybe, do you think sometimes it's good that a show ended? Meaning, like, do you think if a show kept going on, do you think it maybe would have disappointed and we wouldn't have these, like, legendary feelings for some of these shows? My thing is, like, so Firefly, say it went on for, like, 3 or 4 more seasons. Would we look at it as fondly now if it ended up being bad down the road? What do you think of that, Adam? Do you think that's something to keep in mind when we talk about shows wanting to come back and stuff like that? Because that's happened before. I think a good example is Heroes is a good example. I loved Heroes. Heroes is one of my favorite shows of all time. It came back. We don't talk about Heroes really anymore. And there's a good reason we don't talk about it. So do you think that's something to do with legacy? Sometimes it's good that a show ends before it can continue on.
Right. It's kind of like right now, my situation with the Lord of the Rings series.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I have yet to watch it because I don't want to.
Either. I think we're gonna have to talk about it too. So it's gonna be. Oh.
I don't want it to taint the good movies that I had, and it's. I don't know. I don't know. But yes, I do think that it works with any media. Really, I just I am afraid. I guess.
I'm afraid. Yeah. Sometimes it's best not to. Sometimes it's more fun to wonder what we could have gotten than to get. If that makes any sense.
Well, even going back to Freaks and Geeks, like you talk about all the powerhouses on there, Seth Rogen and James Franco. I'm blanking on his name, Jason Segel. But if it had continued, would they have moved on to create the other amazing things that they did?
That's true.
So maybe it ending was like, sad, of course. I've never watched it, but I've always heard like nothing but great things. But would it have been better to get more of that and then none of the other stuff?
I think that's a good point, especially because it was Paul Feig was really invested in making that show. And Judd Apatow. That was like their baby. If they kept going with Freaks and Geeks, would we have gotten any of the other works from them? 40-Year-Old Virgin, all those movies. Would we have gotten the comedy powerhouses that we got later on? A lot of those movies, I think, are based on the relationships that were formed here. And I think some of it has to do with, because of how Freaks and Geeks ended, that they kept those relationships going and kept them in mind for roles later down the road when they were making these other movies. So it is that's a true statement. What do you think, John? Do you think there's something to that too, or?
Yeah, I feel like, that's the one thing that with TV shows, it's always been like one of those things of how long is too long and how much can you enjoy a TV show. Kind of like with movies, it's got a beginning, a middle, and then the end, and you're always thinking like some movies, you're like, oh, I wish there was more, and then they come out with trilogies, and then you're like, well, see, now that's too much right there.
Right, not everything has to be a trilogy, correct?
Yeah. So like with TV shows, I feel like as long as a TV show has an ending point, like they have in their mind, okay, I want this to end at a certain point, instead of just trying to drag on for like, oh, well, people are really liking this, so let's push it a little bit further. I feel like an end point's always good for most TV shows.
Yeah, most TV shows, minus, some of the examples we gave earlier. But yeah, for the most part, I think that's true. I think there should be, when you pitch a TV show, like Breaking Bad, I think is a good example, where Breaking Bad knew its story and knew what it wanted to tell from beginning to end. So they knew what they had and they knew what they wanted to do. Most shows should be that way. Not every show, but I think most shows should have that concept down. But
well, yeah, and like the shows we were talking about before too, like those are kind of shows where like they don't really have an ending per se. Like they can go on because they have different things that they could adapt to. Like it's not like, oh, this has to happen for anything,
Yeah, well, they're more like a stand-up comedy routine, right? You're going on stage and then making jokes about current events and cultural impacts and stuff like that. You know, they're allowed to stay longer than they're supposed to because their material allows for it. Shows with an actual narrative, you know, do need to change. But yeah, it's interesting. But I always do wonder. You know, it's fun to wonder what we could have had or what we could have gotten. You know, but there are a lot of shows like that. Another fun one, which a lot of people don't know, is the original Battlestar Galactica was actually canceled after the first season. Which, if you look at that show, I mean, that show had a lot to do with its Star Wars influence. It took a lot from Star Wars. But a lot of people, especially when you go to these conventions and stuff like that, you still see Battlestar Galactica is really popular. Of course, it got like reinvigorated later down in the 2000s, but the initial season got canceled after one. But it came back, and look what a powerhouse that ended up being. You know, it's one of those things you never know. You never know. That's the magic of television and movie, my friends. But well, guys, like I said, it's great to have everybody on. I think we had an amazing episode. I was happy to have everybody back. I'm happy to, you know, start the wheels spinning again. Adam and I have a fun project for you this month, which we'll be sharing with you very soon when the videos start coming out. September is a very fun month for something, which you'll see very shortly. John, we also have something planned for October that'll be coming. A certain Real Terror Month will be making its return in October, so we cannot wait to share with you what we'll be looking at this season. Julie, I got what we're doing yet. She's on this show. No, we've been talking about maybe a House of Dragons kind of show, something going on. That's more her thing, so I think it'll be good for her to take the lead and talk about that with you guys, since, you know, I'm a little jaded when it comes to that, so maybe I'm not the best guy to be talking about it. But I
got my rose-colored glasses on.
Yeah, let her have it. Let her have this, guys. I think she's earned it. But anyway, guys, thank you all for joining us for this episode of Real Guys Live. My name's Kevin. We got Adam, John, Julie joining us. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
If you guys like what you've seen here today, consider giving this video a like and leaving your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay up to date with everything Real Movie Guys related, make sure to hit that subscribe button and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And don't forget, all you audio listeners at home, we are available on many podcasting platforms. Just search The Real Movie Guys, we should pop right up. Thank you again all so much for joining us on this episode of The Real Review. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Catch you next time.